From here on out, Donkey Kong Country 2 starts to get noticeably harder, but it also seems to find its rhythm. The game's true personality really shines here, as well as in the next two worlds, and it's here that the story of Donkey Kong Country 2 really begins to unfold. This is part 13 of Overthinking Donkey Kong Country 2. Krem Key, to me, is the start of a sort of three-act story within a story. Krem Key, Crazy Kremland, and Gloomy Gulch feel like the heart and soul of Donkey Kong Country 2, and have this past, present, future symbolism that, while probably unintentional, makes a great case for how the Kremlings are their own worst enemies. There's something else too. Notice anything about Krem Key? Like the giant fucking ship sliced in half? Where else have we seen that? If you said every world so far, you're exactly right. I'm not going to get into it until the end of this 3-world arc, but I want you to keep that detail in your mind as we go forward. For the longest time, when I thought of Barrel Bayou, I couldn't recall anything about the actual gameplay. There's a good reason for that. The setting, the visuals, and the music take center stage here. Coming off the back of the 2 new tile sets in Crocodile Cauldron and their amazing soundtracks, Krem Key holds its own with Bayou Boogie, and later the aquatic ambience killer, Sticker Bush Symphony. To me, Krem Key might just be the most beautiful area of the game, and in a game like this, that's saying something. The main gameplay mechanic introduced here are the rotatable launch barrels. Once again, the game gives us our first taste of this new gameplay element in a relatively risk-free environment, so players can get a feel for how they work without accidentally wasting a life in the process. Not long after, we're introduced to Cloak, the first outright supernatural common enemy. Cloak is a ghost in an oversized jacket. He throws shit and was planned to be in the original Donkey Kong Country, but didn't make the cut. Like every cut enemy reused in DKC2, I feel he's better utilized here. I feel like his presence in DKC2, and this level in particular, is motivated by more than just gameplay. Of the original trilogy, DKC2, or more specifically, the Crocodile Isle mainland, has a strong paranormal presence. Excluding Cleaver, Cloak is our first real interaction with the paranormal, and I think his role in Barrel Bayou could help tell us the story of Krem Key, but we'll circle back to that in a moment. The level's a bit on the long side, and difficulty definitely ramps up towards the end, but once you've got the main mechanics under your belt, it's not so bad. I'd argue that the Cloaks are a distant second to the barrels in terms of the level's focus. There's quite a lot of them, and they're used in increasingly creative ways throughout the level, including as a means of reaching a bonus stage. More than any world we've seen before, Krem Key can teach us a lot about the story of Crocodile Isle. Originally the game's main port, it's fallen into a state of extreme disrepair and is more or less abandoned after a ship ran aground here. The walkways we see in Barrel Bayou were likely once the docks of the port and full of activity and life. Now they're almost completely covered with moss from the swamp. The barrels that litter the stagnant water likely came out of the ship's hold when it crashed into the port. Despite the decent enemy population here, this place feels quiet and still, and I think that's by design. The Cloaks that haunt the area could be Kremlings that died in the crash, wandering the wreckage eternally. Maybe their affinity for crates, chests, and barrels is a sort of muscle memory from their days loading and unloading goods from the ships in the port. I know ghosts don't have muscles, but you get my meaning. The end of Krem Key might mark the end of the first half of the game, but to me, the start of Krem Key marks the beginning of the second act. The threshold has truly been crossed by now, and we're in a wholly hostile and unfamiliar world. And as I said before, this is where I believe Donkey Kong Country 2 really finds its groove. I can't wait to explore the rest of the game with you all. Until next time.